Welcome to another CrowdLinker Fireside Chat. I'm Aram Melkoumov, the host. Thanks for tuning in. On this show, I'm interviewing innovation leaders who are working on big industry disruptive problems from within large organizations. My guests have been in the trenches and have lots of practical advice to share about building quality digital products, staying agile, and fostering the innovation culture within their enterprise. This is episode number 7, and I'm here with Ore Adeyemi to talk about why right now might be the perfect time to double down on innovation. Ore is the managing director and head of strategic innovation investments at HSBC. He's based in Silicon Valley, leading investment efforts at HSBC's corporate venture capital arm named Strategic Innovation Investments. The team invests in companies globally that are strategically aligned with HSBC in order to drive innovation and adoption of technologies across business lines. Thank you so much for joining us, Ore. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me around.
Cool. Let's get started. First question I have for you is if you could tell the listeners a little bit about what you do in your role at HSBC, such things like what are you working on, how big is your team, and where are you based, and where's your team based?
Sure. Thanks, Aram. So I lead our corporate VC arm. I'm based in the US. The team is primarily based in London. As you said, we focus on investments that help accelerate innovation, innovation agenda at HSBC. We invest in technologies, platforms, companies that strategically align to HSBC business units and functions as well. I think that's the main difference between us and your traditional venture capital arm, that we take a look at our opportunities through a strategic lens. We're working on opportunities across traditional fintech areas, the payments, capital markets, but also we look at things areas where I call tech for tech. We have 4 key themes we tend to focus on. One is the area of cybersecurity and crime prevention, so AML, KYC fall in that category. Another area for us is data and analytics. Another area for us is open banking. That's probably the one that sounds most fintech. So open banking, microservices, APIs will fall under that. And the last theme for us is operational efficiency, which is how can we do things simpler, better, faster, and working with companies. With respect to the team, I have a relatively small team, definitely less than 10 people, as I said, primarily in London. And also just to give you some areas of focus for our investment arm, we're pretty flexible in terms of the stage of investment. The key thing is more engagement with HSBC, or the prospects of engagement with HSBC. So we have done investments in A and B, Series A and B, and also Series C and above as well. And we tend to invest between $3 and $10 million per transaction on a case-by-case basis. We may as well, we may do less or even more than that as well. So so far so good. We've been fortunate to have invested in well over 25 companies across the globe, in North America, primarily in the US, in Asia, and of course in Europe, where most of the team is based.
Awesome. That's it's an amazing angle that the bank's taking, and it really, I think, helps drive the whole innovation mandate in an organization like that with what you're doing. So out of curiosity, before we kind of get into the more beefier questions, how has this whole pandemic and having this remote team, you're in Silicon Valley, they're in London, how has that played out for you? Any lessons learned in terms of running, this remote team in an enterprise?
Yes, I mean it's interesting. That's an interesting question. I wouldn't even say it's running a remote team, and I think it's just running a global team. That's what we are. HSBC is global in nature, so I think it's something that we've actually been, as a team, we've been used to it, because I was based here. The team was primarily in London. But if there are any lessons learned, is more along the lines of flexibility, being agile in nature, and as a leader, and to the extent that you can, you have to reach out one-on-one. I have a small team, so I can afford to do that. Unlike if you had a 500-member team, you can obviously reach out to everyone. So I think it's really having flexibility in our approach. Some practical things that we do, we really make time to connect with one another, the members of the team. We try to make meetings very short and effective. We don't tend to do more than 30-minute meetings, so that we're effective in our approach. And I think, in a situation like this, given you have a global team, imagine you just have to get some certain principles, certain patterns in place, let the team run, and empower people to make decisions. And I think what is done for us is we've actually been able to build more trust with each other and being comfortable with each other during these times.
That's amazing. I'm glad to hear it hasn't impacted you too much, and that you've been able to manage it.
Yeah, we do miss I have to admit, we do miss the face-to-face. So when I was pre-COVID, I used to be in London at least every 6 weeks and meet face-to-face with stakeholders with the team. So don't get me wrong, we miss that. We miss the physical meetings, but we're making do with what we have. And it's been a good year to date.
And like with everything going on, with the pandemic and the future, a lot of companies now have had to accelerate their digital transformation agendas, whether that's at HSBC or like at tons of other enterprises around the world. What major things have you seen have come to be with everything that's happened around this acceleration? And how do you think it's going to change the path to digital innovation, like in general?
Yeah, that's a good point. So acceleration, as you put it, in fact, I had a friend of mine, I think I was talking to him yesterday, and the way he said is that what COVID has done is made everybody hit the fast forward button. So, whatever was going on within your organization, whatever was going on with you as a startup, fast forward button. That's been the primary thing. So yeah, so you're completely right. It's acceleration of the digital agenda for corporates because you don't have any choice but to implement digital solutions to meet customer or your consumer demands. But I think it goes both ways. On one hand, there is the demand from corporates with respect to digital solutions to meet customer demand. But again, when you look at the providers of the digital solutions, I think it's what's come out of this in a positive way is that they've actually had to accelerate the rate of which they deploy these solutions to large corporates. So it's something that I think is worked out for the two sides. What we're clearly seeing is a rapid scaling of onboarded solutions. And innovative ideas. We're seeing more innovative ideas come through the pipeline, which are focused on servicing the customer. So as I said, it's been a win-win situation for most. But frankly, when COVID first hit around and things were being shut down, I think around March, April, there was a pause. So everyone was a bit scared. What's going to happen? But I think people adapted pretty quickly. And what we're seeing is the pipeline around innovative ideas is actually gone up quite a bit, and the companies buying solutions and companies providing solutions have had to adapt accordingly, and it's been a win-win situation. The key thing, though, in all this, even though it sounds positive, is that there has had to be a sense of prioritization on both sides as well. So what's most important for us as an institution in terms of solutions? What's most important for us in terms of to push our innovation agenda ahead? And also startups, companies have had to be flexible in their approach in dealing with large organizations. But all in all, I think it's been a win-win situation for within the ecosystem of innovation, startups, and large corporates.
There's still, like, even to this date, there's still a lot of CEOs and board members at different organizations of all sizes who are still kind of like stuck or are scared or are still playing that whole innovation theater mindset that, let's just check the box towards doing innovation just so that people know that we're trying something. But now, like, push comes to shove, they really have to like demonstrate some progression, some results to their stakeholders and to shareholders and things like that. What advice would you give to those decision makers at those organizations in terms of how can they help facilitate this progression that needs to take place if they aren't doing it, or if they are doing it, and how to help
Well, if I were to give advice, first off, I think it's very clear that large organizations, even small organizations, have been going through cost-cutting measures. But I think what you find that this cost-cutting measures have actually led to an increase in the requirement of digitization and automation of manual processes. So, and I think at least I can speak within large organizations that you have the likes of regulators and other watchdogs that have actually endorsed in a push towards innovation. So they from an external, when you look at it from an external perspective, you have this encouragement for whether they're large organizations to, even by the regulators, to go ahead with your digitization agenda, to go ahead and explore innovation. So if I were to give advice to CEOs or board members at large organizations, I do agree. I think they should double down on innovation. I think there's no better time to do this. It's not so much about getting the new shiny toy. That's not what it's about. But the advice that I will give is having a clear plan on how you want to achieve what you need to achieve, and identifying quick wins. I think that's the thing, and that's a central theme around innovation. You have to identify quick wins and provide an environment where you can fail quickly and you move on quickly, and creating an environment really where there is, and it always comes from the top, and that's why we've been very fortunate at HSBC to see this, where you create an environment where there's ease of quick decision making. And that helps a lot. That helps to drive your innovation agenda. So do I think this is a time to double down? I do agree with you. This is a time to double down. This is a time where you can actually identify areas where you can achieve, multiple wins, and quick wins. Something to bear in mind also, piece of advice is that any leader, whether it's an innovation or corporate leader, has to make sure it's an iterative process where you're able to challenge these ideas and refine them as well. I'm a big fan of design thinking, and that's something we're incorporating at HSBC. Thanks to some of my colleagues, and this all come into play during this time. So advice is double down, as you said, but identify the quick wins and fail quickly if you need to, but provide the avenue to move and make decisions quickly as well.
If just for my own curiosity, I mean, assume that you're a leader and you're brought in to push this innovation agenda. How can you convince those decision makers who are kind of skeptical that now's the time to double down, and like they need to understand that it's going to cost, there's going to be investment towards it, but like now's the right time to do it? Like how can that convincing kind of take place?
I don't think, no, I don't know, this may be controversial, but I don't even think it's so much the need to convince decision makers that this is the right time to double down on innovation and not scale back. It's more to have the leaders, or all of us in this ecosystem, to listen to customers, and that's it. So if you actually listen to what your customers are saying, what your employees are saying as a leader, it's always a no-brainer in terms of what you need to do and not scale back. So I think the key thing is encouraging leadership within any organization, any large corporate, to listen to the customers. And that's something we take seriously at HSBC. When you listen to your customers, you hear what the customers are saying, you hear what the employees are saying, then it becomes, it becomes very obvious that you have to double down on innovation. I have one of my colleagues, he heads up innovation for our finance and risk function, Steve Suarez. I'm name dropping him. He said something that it's about happy employees. Happy employees will give you happy customers, and happy customers will give you happy shareholders. And it just flows that way. So it's creating that environment where you listen. So when you have leaders that are able to listen, I think convincing the decision makers, convincing the leaders that's the right time to go ahead with certain innovative ideas and not to scale back becomes much easier. It will speak for itself.
Yeah, amazing. I love that expression.
I talked to him. I told him I was going to scale it. It's not my saying. He said it's happy. We're having a conversation. It said happy employees, happy customers, happy shareholders. I was like, you know what? That is true.
It is a circle. It all goes around 100%.
Yeah.
You mentioned design thinking. I want to also now kind of go a bit deeper in terms of like, how does innovation really work at HSBC? Like from a process standpoint, like design thinking is one part of an innovation process. Mm-hmm. What are some other things that HSBC does in order to stay on that kind of front line in terms of getting the information and then processing it and then actually executing on some initiatives?
I think the key, what we do at HSBC is, getting people involved. That's extremely important, and that's something we've had to learn over the years. We're working to have innovation to be more centralized, more coordinated, but we have different groups that are working on different innovation activities. And what's happened or what's made these different organizations within HSBC successful is just getting, as I said, just getting people involved, having avenues where you have diversity of thought and inclusion. That is so important. When you're able to start with a big pool, and I really mean when I say a big pool of ideas, it's so, it's not so much, Aram and Ali and Ore, what are your ideas? And this is, you are the only three people that know best. But no, start with a big pool, but have a good way in which you narrow. And that's something we've been able to do successfully in different parts of HSBC. And as I said, listening to our employees and what our customers are saying has been extremely important. So that's kind of the way it's worked for us in identifying ideas at HSBC.
I love it. I like the big funnel and then going down to like
it's I think a lot of people I've heard stats around this. It's if you were to come up with ideas, there's only a very small percentage that actually make it to the end. So you better have a big pool, because not everything will make it. And that's something that's worked at HSBC, but it's so important. Diversity of thought and inclusion around, it's so important. And that is the asset that organizations have. So at HSBC, we recognize that that's the asset. We have our people in terms of innovation, and our customers as well. Listen to our customers and the people being able to generate these ideas. And that's what's worked for us and will continue to work for us. And as we fine tune it, as we listen more to our employee base, this diverse group, we have over 200,000 people to get ideas from. As we start this and as we use it, we're able to identify things to move us forward as an organization.
That's fantastic. And when you have this big pool, how do you then go and funnel it a bit smaller and then a bit smaller? Like, what is like, you have a top funnel and then it goes to, I'm assuming, validating or taking a few good ones that people may be really stuck behind. And then how do you go about validating those ideas that people have and then what happens next? Do they create like proof of concept?
Yeah, so it is. It's as you get the ideas together. The validation process starts with which ones are quick wins. So you could identify the quick wins, and as I learned, it's sort of you have the first horizon, which is the quick wins, and also you have the second horizon, which is things that can be new to us at HSBC, but it's not new to the world. That's still innovative. So let's admit there are things that are just very quick wins. That's your horizon one, and then horizon two is sort of things that are sort of new to HSBC, but and maybe not so much new to the world. It's fun. Then the third horizon is sort of the moonshot. It's kind of new to everybody. So you could find ways to filter into these three different buckets and then decide which ones you want to tackle first. So first of all, I think the quick wins are easier to tackle at first. Then you go through a POC process, and from POC, not all of them are going to make you through the POC. Then you go through also a production process. Even after production, not all the ideas might survive as well. So that's the way I see it, and just doing it systematically. But frankly, the way I'm talking about it sounds like it is a science, but there's an art to it as well, where you do get a feel from listening again to the employees, listening to the customers. You do get a feel of what you should prioritize, and the most important thing, let what your customers are saying drive what problems you're looking to solve.
That's fantastic. And when the ideas are going towards the proof of concept stage of production, how does it work to get like budgets around it? Because obviously somebody's got to pay for this type of things.
You
You
said
got to
the
get
you said
stakeholder approval.
you said the B word, Aram.
The
The B
budget.
words. You said the B word. I was hoping you wouldn't say the B word. It sort of I have lots of companies pitched to me as well from an investment point of view, equity investment, which is primarily what I do. But we try to help companies get engaged, innovative companies engage with bits of HSBC. And when we meet with them, and but my fire question is like, so how much is this going to cost? It's sort of like, it's all well and good, but I think in terms of how you get budget, the B word, from my discussions with different innovation leaders at HSBC, I think it's about proving value. If I were to tell you, I'm going to give you, if you give me $1, and for $1 that you give me, I'm able to give you $2. That's a no-brainer, right? So I think it's being able to craft and decide and be able to convey value and ultimately prove value. So people do appreciate that, and that could help get budget. I think another way in which you get budget is through that I found worked is cross collaboration. So, and this is what I mean by that. So I may be the one with the idea, but I'm not the one that has the funds. There might be another unit of business that may have the funds to make it happen, and working closely with them. So working with partners, and that is the whole concept of open innovation, I think. So using the principles of open innovation, working across the board, you'll be shocked how you're able to leverage resources, ideas, people, budget, to get one common goal achieved within a large organization. The concept of around innovation a few years ago used to be that knowledge is power. But in discussing with my colleagues, we actually disagree that innovation is not about knowledge being power. It's about how much knowledge can I share. So making connections. So these are ways in which you get budget, open innovation, cross collaboration, being able to identify value, and ultimately, again, prioritization. You can't do everything. Even for me as an investor, there are great companies that we meet and come across every day. We cannot invest in every single company as much as we'll love to do it from a strategic point of view. but being able to ideally prioritize what we should be, who we should be investing in, who we should be working with can help us make the case for budget around innovation.
Lots of great tidbits there. Thank you. Kind of leading me into my next question that I have is, innovation is a very tricky thing to track, from its infancy all the way to production, and then 6 months, 6 years, 12 years out, right, in terms of the success that it had, whether that's through strategic investments into companies or whatnot. Is there anything you could share there in terms of how do you build out some of those metrics and measure the success of these initiatives that you do?
Yeah, I was going to say again, the M word, measurement metrics. Yes. So I've gone to, it's almost every conference, especially in corporate venture capital investing that I go to. There's always a panel discussion, or there's always a breakout session around metrics, KPIs. And I tell you, that tends to be the most sold out breakout session, or the most packed, because it seems like everyone's still trying to figure it out. And everyone's always curious as to, well, so how are you doing it? How are you doing it in terms of metrics or measuring success around innovation? But I think it varies across different organizations. Fundamentally, I mean, there are soft metrics that one can have, is really, and the soft metrics are things like, how are you creating an environment for employees and teams to come up with innovative ideas and to work with innovate. So those are soft metrics. What are you doing? Things like upskilling, and that's why I go back to what I said early on: create happy employees, you create happy customers, and ultimately you create happy shareholders. That's a way. So those are soft metrics. And so what are we doing as an organization to facilitate an environment that is inclusive, that is welcoming to ideas? That's, so you can measure that. Okay, what programs do we have in place? So those are soft metrics. Then there are the hard metrics that innovation leaders tend to use. So hard metrics are things like, well, the number of POCs, how many of these POCs are successful, really identifying, which POCs or which ones can add an incremental dollar, maybe in terms of revenue to the business cases that you have. So going into production, how many do you put into production? What goes beyond production? What is sustainable even after production? So in order for you to have success, because that's what metrics is all about, you really have to build that mountain and really identify how you're progressing things along the funnel, along the funnel, the top of the mountain. And there are other things around efficiency, really tracking, are we able to, does this translate to efficiency? Are we able to do things faster? And also another metric that people look to in terms of innovation is, with a particular idea, does it even give you better predictability around what your customer needs are? I think that's really key. So speed to, and also cost efficiency as well is one.
Awesome. Are there
but I tell you, but metrics is not something that anyone's figured out. It will vary, so for us on the investment side, yes, we do look at, we're making investments, but it's not just the dollar amounts that we've deployed every year, but how engaged are these companies that we've invested in? How engaged are they with HSBC? How successful are they with HSBC in terms of depth? Okay, are they doing more in terms of breadth? Are they doing more across? Maybe they came in through one organization, maybe it was within a wealth and private bank business, but are they doing more personal banking wealth and personal banking business, or are they doing something there? And also in our commercial banking business, is this a solution that we can take across the board? That's always key for us. And those are some of the metrics that we're able to track.
Okay, fantastic. If if you can share, are there any innovative projects that you're currently working on at HSBC that you can talk about?
I mean, frankly, every investment that we've made as a team, HSBC Ventures they're working on different innovative projects. So I can give you some examples. So, for example, we invested in a company called Quantexa. They provided financial crime data analytics across a majority of our businesses. It's fully deployed, covering our intelligence unit around fraud, AML, sanctions. We have several users on the platform, and so being able to identify potential areas of fraud, that's something Quantexa is helping us with. And when I talk about breadth, Quantexa, yes, we're using it as an AML solution. Additionally, it's been deployed for customer insights. So think about it. If you can get context around connectivity connections to be able to identify fraud. Why can I get context around connections to be able to have customer insights, understanding who your suppliers are and the supply of your supplier and how I work with them. So Quantexa is a great example of working on innovative projects across the board at HSBC. Another company we've invested in fact, two companies we invested in that actually working together is a company called Contour. Contour is a trade finance platform built on decentralized network technology, and they're using technology from R3 Corda, and it's been designed to facilitate the issuance of letters of credit. And so HSBC has been able to do groundbreaking, I think the world's first letter of credit transaction on a blockchain platform that actually changed the time that it took from 5 to 10 days to 24 hours. And most recently, I think it was in the news, we did something in Bangladesh where we conducted the first country blockchain-based letter of credit transaction on the same platform. So we have, things happening from my side with our startups, but there are other things happening even at HSBC around innovation or even efficiency. Think about it, during this COVID times, just being able to get over 200,000 people to work securely from home. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So that kudos to our technology team, to my colleagues that have helped make this possible. An area of interest for us and that we've actually done a lot of work in is biometrics technology. There was I don't think I'm wrong with this quote. We saved our voice ID has prevented over $200 million of £200 million of attempted fraud just in the UK. $200 million of attempted fraud just in the UK through our voice ID program. So that's innovation working for us. And there is also another solution. In fact, there is a company done this work with a company based here in Palo Alto around. There's this iCash tool which is using artificial intelligence to ensure that more than 1,000 ATMs in Hong Kong don't run out of money. So before, you have ATMs running out of money, and it was a bit of a manual process, but HSBC has been able to use AI in identifying how to replenish cash with this tool. So, I mean, there's so many things going on, so many innovative ideas, projects or initiatives that are ongoing, but it's all about efficiency. At HSBC, our current CEO has made it very clear we are doubling down in terms of technology, our digital agenda. We're doubling down on it. We see the opportunity, and we're going to capitalize on that opportunity.
I know you work across different kind of departments at HSBC, and you work a lot with startups, and you do investments in some of these companies. How do you think because innovation can come in different ways. It could be internal, it could be external through investments. How do you think large corporates can do a better job of engaging with startups and vice versa? Any kind of tips there?
I mean, the way large corporates, and this has been a lesson learned for us at HSBC. So we've been doing this for, been doing it for about 6 years or so. How can we do things better? It's just making it easier to engage. Because HSBC organizations like us, we're a large organization, and for a 20-man or 20-woman or 5-man, 5-woman startup, it can be intimidating. It's like, you come in, who am I supposed to be talking to? And you come, you have so many meetings, and you're not sure where things should fit. So from our perspective, things that large organizations, and for us, what we've been able to achieve to make things better is just making that process itself simpler, having clear contacts, just simply clear contact, clear connections that can help navigate. And my team at HSBC plays a great role in doing that, being helping navigate the large organization that is HSBC. Some people don't like it when I use this word. I call it concierge services. So the concierge services for the startups, helping them and doing it in a way with care. Doing it with care, that's it. Now, knowing that these startups are fragile, these are startups, these are people that have, and I think sometimes when we talk about innovation and when we talk about investments, we miss the whole bit around empathy and being able to really understand these are people that have, probably, if this is their first idea, this is their life's work. They're taking a major risk, and really understanding that. And that plays a great deal of in how you approach these startups and how you engage with them, and how you give them advice too. So that's one. So on the other hand, with startups too, so it's not HSBC. I'm going to point this out so that they have work to do as well. Is for the early stage companies to identify and understand how, what clear use cases. Understanding clear use cases that they can work on, or that large organizations would appreciate. And frankly, sometimes it's as simple as doing your homework. It's as simple as doing your homework. Coming in and saying, "Oh, yeah, so what are your plans on your digital agenda?" You're not doing your homework because HSBC has been on this digital agenda for years. So so doing your homework, asking questions. In fact, the most successful CEOs that I've seen in their engagement with large corporates, they listen. Sounds simple, right? They listen, they ask questions, and then and then they're able to communicate potential solutions. It's not so much creating a solution and you just want to scramble around looking for a problem. I don't believe in that. So those those are some pieces of advice that I would suggest both for the large organization and for the startups themselves.
On that note, can you maybe contrast the difference in innovation coming from M&As or investments versus internal? And is there a difference between the two dynamics?
Yeah, well, there could be. So, what tends to happen, I think, with so you could have large organizations making acquisitions, M&A, right? And you could have startups or relative startups, maybe at the growth stage, making acquisitions. I think what you tend to have, this is a very general statement, it's not always true, but what you tend to have with the large organization tends to be the size, of you'd hardly find large organizations buying doing an M&A transaction, purchasing a Series A company. So because they always want to see really what traction the company is had in the marketplace, potential with them. It's only if they've done so much with them. Or it could be an acqui-hire. So maybe you have a startup, has excellent idea, but for some reason, things are not working out, but they have solid technology and great people. You could have a large organization that would just absorb them. We've seen a few of those happen. So I think one of the difference in compare and contrast is just around scale of the types of companies that you see and what stage they're in, and that's really it. But we at HSBC, I mean, from the investments that we do, we're not investing so that we can acquire. Most of the investments are minority investments. We're investing because one, we want to develop insights, in particular innovative technologies. We want to invest so that we can partner with these companies to help accelerate innovation, to do maybe some co-product, some joint product development work as well, when of course financial returns as well. So it's not so much we're investing to make that acquisition, and that's been our strategy.
Okay. Personal question here. You've been in the innovation space for some time now. Where do you go, or who do you turn to advice when you're stuck, or how do you improve your capabilities, your mindset towards innovation?
I wish I could say I have the oracle that I go to and get all the wisdom. I kind of do. I do have lots of oracles that I go to. I think there's, in terms of people, yes, there are people that I go to, and you'll be shocked that I learned so much from my team. The people that report to me, I learned so much from them. I have discussions, I tell them, I learn from them, getting ideas. What do you think? What's the latest thing? What's the latest trend? Are you excited? What are you excited about? Why are you excited about this? And we have such we're built enough trust and very open-minded about challenging ourselves and really thinking through what's next. What should we be doing? So I do go to my team. There are senior people at HSBC that I go to as well for what we call mentorship, or just getting their ideas and their thoughts. And there are people even outside of HSBC that I go to. I mean, as I told you, at HSBC we have, within HSBC we have different innovation teams, and going and having conversations, keeping in touch with all these stakeholders that I have, lots of them that I have, and having a cadence in my engagement with them and talking with them. And there are people external as well. So it could be, you as well, Aram, what do you think about this? Really, what do you think about this? So there are people and venture, here in Silicon Valley, there are lots of VCs that we engage with, I engage with, and we have regular catch-ups to talk about ideas, to talk about things we should be looking at, and that's worked well for me and for my team. Amazing. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Awesome. I always love ending these off with some quick fire kind of questions, which are
okay. So is this a test?
It's not.
Am I going to be graded on this?
No, not at all. It's just 4 questions.
Okay.
And one-liners, kind of like first thing that kind of comes to your head. Okay. So
sure. So
first one is, what is something innovation leaders should stop doing as of tomorrow? Stop
delaying. Stop delaying. Move. Do something. Look less inward, more outward.
Okay. What should they? Well, you kind of answered it. What are some other things they should start doing right away, other than what you just said?
Don't grade me. They should open to quick wins. Identify quick wins. That's it.
And then last one or two is, what tips or tricks would you tell people about sharpening your innovation mindset?
That's a good one, and I'm very tempted not to. I don't know if it's a quick fire answer. So tips is as I said, being open to failure. I think is one, and when you see, it's actually more when it's not working, moving on. Right. That's one. Another tip around sharpening innovation mindset. This may be controversial, and I'm not going to mention the person's name so I don't embarrass him, that he told me this. Understanding that innovation And decision making, it's not a democracy at the end of it all. It's not a democracy. I'm not saying it's a dictatorship, but it's not a democracy, meaning you have to make decisions. Aram, what do you think? Ali, Sergey, what do you think? Or what do you think? Okay, you make a decision. And I'm not necessarily looking for consensus, not all the time. So it's not a democracy, and I think you'll be able to. It's taking risk and being able to make that decision and getting it done, and being very comfortable in your failure too.
Being able to accept it, right?
Accept it. Absolutely.
Okay. Wow. Ore, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your knowledge sharing and lots of great golden nuggets here that we could pass on to the listeners. So thank you for your time and thanks for participating. So for all the listeners, tune in next time to hear about more innovation professionals sharing a lot of these great insights that you're only going to get here. So thanks again, Ore. It was wonderful.
Thanks, Aram.